Hello, BookTube. Welcome to the Pig and Whistle Clifford D. Simak reading group. And we have Scott Danielson from Scott Danielson's channel, Pat from Book Chat with Pat,
Hi.
Ira from SF Words of Wonder, and Gavin from Genre Books.
Hi.
And we're here today to discuss Clifford D. Simak's 1969 little novel, Goblin Reservation. Well, I can take that one down because everybody else has it.
Love it.
So,
this is one crazy book, Sean.
Sorry?
This is one crazy book.
It is. It's one of my favorites anyway.
It's fun. It's fun as heck. Yeah.
So who wants to go with a sort of spoiler-free, just a general overview first, as we normally do, I guess?
I could do it.
Okay.
Unless anyone else wants to.
Let her rip.
So we're in like a future history here. It's quite a ways in the future, and Earth has kind of turned into this like institute, and where they've kind of done a lot of research to try to kind of rationalize a lot of myth in human culture. And then there's been aliens, and there's like this time institute that has kind of gone back in time and got certain people entities like the goblins. So they're have turned out to be real. Well, one of our main character, he's like a researcher or a professor at this institute, and he went off on a mission because he wanted to try to prove that there was dragons, because they'd still yet to find like a real life dragon. And on his way, he kind of gets intercepted by something, and it's this crystal world. It's very mysterious. He gets some information that we don't find out right away about. And when he comes back to Earth, he finds out that he had already arrived previously and been murdered. And his friends are kind of like, wow, you're alive. This is great. And two of his best friends, one is like an uplifted Neanderthal, and one's a ghost. And then when he goes to his old apartment, he meets this kind of new history researcher at the Institute. And they kind of team up to try to uncover a lot of these mysteries that are going on. There's also this rectangular like brick, this big giant brick that the Time Institute had gone back in time and brought back with great effort. And somehow all of these things are linked together, and there's like this conspiracy going on with his other self that had been murdered. And the rest of the novel, you kind of like unfold all of this whole plot.
Yeah.
Well done.
Good. Yeah.
That's a nice summary there. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll go into spoilers shortly. Daniel says, good afternoon. Hello. And Daniel. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's a really fun book. But yeah, so, and the thing that's interesting is who's read Waystation? Okay. Think of this as don't you think it could be the future of Waystation, of the world of Waystation? It's in Wisconsin.
Possibly.
They are traveling in the same way. I sort of think like it's nothing saying it is, but it could very well be, I think. And it would be a fitting future for Waystation.
Yeah.
I kind of think it would be.
Yeah, for sure.
But just the fact that they travel with this sort of matter transformation thing that goes, they don't use spaceships much. Like there is reference to spaceships because Maxwell's brother's on a spaceship somewhere seeding these matter transfer machines. But he uses this a few times throughout, so it's no guarantee, but I like to think in my mind this is the future of the Earth from Waystation.
I could see that.
Very cool.
What was the time difference in when he wrote Waystation and when he wrote Goblin Reservation?
63, I think, for Waystation.
Yeah, This is 68 or 67?
Mhm.
Well, published 69.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of other things like we've talked about how Simak, you know, he reuses themes, and there's things like, we just read Destiny Doll. What was one of the rocking horses' names? Dobbin.
Oh yeah.
And who's, I'm sure it was Dobbin, and who's Mr. O'Toole's, the Goblin's horse, is Dobbin.
Interesting. Wow, that's great.
Very good.
And just
the Wheelers.
Sorry.
The Wheelers, the aliens. That's like wheels with a can of worms in a way in the middle.
This time, not a can of worms, a pail of worms.
A pail of worms.
That's right, a pail of worms.
A pail.
A pail.
Yeah, and it's interesting.
But it's also Wisconsin.
Isn't what there used to be a comic strip called Alley Oop?
There was, yeah.
Was this the real Alley Oop?
Mhm.
The real Alley Oop, or was it somebody that they just named Oop?
Huh.
Did they call him Alley Oop in the novel? I can't remember.
Oh, I think this all fits in together.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I had a look at this. So Alley Oop is this cartoon character. There's then a song by the Hollywood Argyles called Alley Oop, which has the line in it, "Look at that caveman go."
Yeah.
And David Bowie then uses the same line, "Look at that caveman go," in Life on Mars. And if you want to bring it all the way back, David Bowie played the Goblin King in the Labyrinth.
Oh, that's awesome. Well done, Gavin. That's great.
That's awesome. And he does actually call him Alley Oop in here. It's
Yes.
not just Oop.
Yes, he does.
Sure,
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So it's
and also that in Wisconsin, it's the Wisconsin station, but it's like, and the other thing that's interesting is like there's the Rolling Road, which goes right back, I think, to 1940. I tried to find who did Moving Roads first, and the earliest that I can find is The Roads Must Roll by Robert Heinlein.
Yeah.
And then Asimov uses it in The Caves of Steel.
Yep.
The strip running. And that's 1950, in the early 50s. So, that's an interesting thing. But also because of that, it's hard to place where everything is in Wisconsin. But he goes to a cafe, and he's overlooking Lake Mendota, I don't know the pronunciation, which is halfway between, at his direct line, halfway on the west is Millville, where he was born, and Milwaukee on the shores of Lake Michigan.
Oh, wow.
And then he uses something like a Hound Dog Hollow. There is a Dog Hollow that's just northwest of well, actually, the Lake Medonta is what's the other city? It's part of the city. I can't remember the name of the city.
St. Paul?
No. That's
that? Okay.
I forget. It starts with M as well. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But it's just northwest of there. And that's. I just wanted to throw in a few more things like that because he uses like Hound Dog Hollow, which he grew up with coon hunting, and he uses coonskin system a lot as well. Coonskin caps were hugely popular during the 60s, massively popular in the UK and in the US, mainly because the 50s Davy Crockett series, and at that time when he wrote this was Daniel Boone.
Yep.
And there was even a female version of it too that sold, and I forget what they called that one, but they had a female version. But all these things, like it makes, like, people call them pastoral, but I sort of think it's more folksy. It gives a folksy feel. And the other things is too, he has something for trees, and I don't want to go too much into trees here, but when Maxwell and Churchill are crashing, they scrape the top of oak trees, and he mentions oak trees several times. And I think oak, oak trees basically give you a different feeling. If it said poplar trees, what do you think of? Oak trees, you think of something else. So there's some imagery, and I think the reason why he chooses that. Anyway, I'll stop there.
Interesting.
Yeah, you got a nice.
We also
comment there.
get a entity or a race that is preserving knowledge, which
Yes.
is a common theme.
Yeah.
And deciding who to give it to.
The library, because
Yeah.
you got that in Enchanted Pilgrimage, the library. I love how Simak took time to describe the scenery and nature of the Wisconsin surroundings. You can tell Simak loved. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like he says, he kind of thought he would go and retire back where he grew up, but he says he can't because it would ruin things. His memory. He's not he kind of says that he remembers the hollows deeper than they were, the woods darker than they were. So he doesn't go back much anymore because it's a sharp contrast to the reality of what his memory is. So he likes to keep the memory the way it was.
Interesting.
Jenny's here.
Hello.
Hi, Jenny.
He would often start off a chapter with some of those just beautiful descriptions. And then kind of get back into the story. I read a couple to my wife, and she thought it was pretty good writing.
That's cool.
Yeah, and other things too that he uses, like back to the folksy type thing. He'll use things like he hunkered down. That to me is like a folksy type way of describing things. But yeah, it's just I find that interesting because it is pastoral, but it's also, like I say, folksy. It's you don't see this a lot in science fiction.
Yeah. This is the first book we've had of him that doesn't use the word huddle.
Yeah, no, that's that. I noticed that.
I just searched it. Yep. Because I didn't remember seeing it.
But they hunkered down instead.
Right.
They hunkered.
That's great.
So let's start back again. Okay, Maxwell, he arrives back at Wisconsin Station. And he goes to basically complain, it looks like, to security, to Inspector Drayton. And Inspector Drayton says, "Hey, you already came back. You're dead." And he tells them that there was something wrong because he wound up on this crystal planet and with beings there. He didn't tell too much information. But yeah, he was found dead. So everybody thinks he's dead. So he's going to take, he's waiting to get on, I guess, or a flight or something to get back home. It's not really clear, but I think maybe on the moving roadways. And then he meets somebody called Monty Churchill, who says, "Oh, I got a flying plane, back to city as well. The flying plane, flying cars.
Flying cars, yeah."
So he says, I'll take you. So they're flying, and then all of a sudden they lose power, and they say, "Well, you shouldn't. That shouldn't happen." It's like with the station, these things shouldn't go wrong. There's so much redundancy, so they crash in the middle of the fairy lawn, a fairy green, and then they hear a horse coming up, and it's Mr. O'Toole, a goblin, and he's all angry and stuff because he knows it's the trolls that have put an enchantment on the flying car.
Right.
And then he asks them back to the castle to have some sweet October ale,
which sounds delicious.
It does.
But yeah, so this is like, science fiction and fantasy, it's more melded here than anything we've read so far, I think.
Yeah.
It is prominent, both elements.
Yeah, because
he's having a good time with this.
Oh yeah, and like the fairy, there's fairies, there's brownies. We've seen the brownies don't really make a show. They're talked about, but we got trolls, we got banshees, we got the goblins, and they turn out to be not supernatural or fairy creatures. They were aliens. And they're long-lived, like millions of years. Like O'Toole is older than humanity. you know. And I like, the funny thing is, like, you know, why did they, you know, they sort of built the Goblin Reservation for them to come to, and everything was sort of the way they thought they'd like it. So they got a broken down castle. And he says, it's drafty. Why did you do that? It's like, you know, they thought they lived in drafty castles, and he goes, well, it's only because after you know, like, they went to ruin in Europe, then we moved into them.
Yeah, we don't like them. We just have to live in them.
Yeah.
Very funny.
So he gets back, and he puts the key into his apartment, and he walks in, and there's a saber-toothed tiger there. Or, well, no, somebody else. No, he goes in and he realizes it's different. Like, the furniture's all different, and then the woman Carol comes in with a saber-toothed tiger called Sylvester, who's just a little putty cat, you know.
Biomechanical.
Biomechanical. You know, but just, you know, he seems to like Maxwell. And then he finds out, she threw out all his furniture. You know, it was horrible furniture in here. My furniture.
Yeah, you don't live here anymore.
So and then he feels bad, and he says, okay, well, I'll take you out to dinner. And she thinks it's sort of, you know, a line that it's all set up. You know, he tells her a little bit that he's come and what's happened. And then they do go out, and they go to the Pig and Whistle to have a meal. But she says, you know, Sylvester's got to come, and he likes raw steak. So they walk into the restaurant, and all of a sudden he grabs a steak off of somebody else's plate, and then she apologizes, and he goes, no, it's okay. I don't think I didn't want to eat it anyway. It's just all this. It's so humorous. That's the thing. So then they meet their friends, Alioup, the Neanderthal who's doing his PhD, and Ghost, who doesn't know who he's the ghost of. And he's scared of his own shadow if he had a shadow.
It's almost a setup to a joke. It's like a dead man, a historian, a biomechanical saber-toothed tiger, a ghost of a literary person, and a uplifted Neanderthal walk into a bar.
Yeah. That was one of the things that I really loved about the book, though. I loved the relationships between characters. I just thought they were so delightful. I really loved, first of all, how much everybody loves Maxwell. You know, like they can't believe he's back because, we were mourning you. We just came from your funeral, you know.
But you owe us $10 for the wreath that we sent.
That's right. We did send flowers. You know? But I love the relationship between Oop and Ghost. You know, I love their friendship, but I also love the friendship between Oop and Maxwell. You know, I just thought that really drove a lot of the narrative. And, you know, I liked them. I wanted to go out to the bar with them. You know, I thought that'd be fun, you know. So.
I love it.
Yeah,
and both of those characters are the real sort of instigators of action. You'd think if it was just left to Maxwell, he'd be there sort of pondering his fate all the way through it. Whereas those two are just like, no, this is what we're going to do. And Ghost can seemingly just sort of vanish and reappear anywhere he wants. So it just gets done. Yeah. It's a real sort of Hanna-Barbera cartoon sort of ensemble atmosphere.
Yes. Yeah.
And the thing is that we, before we get to the thing, we see a sign of saying that they're bringing William Shakespeare, the Time Institute is bringing him back to have a lecture to say how I did not come to write.
Yes.
The place. And then a big bar brawl happens at the Pig and Whistle. and I read
the English department.
and I read something and they were comparing that to the bar in Star Wars. And he says, you know, George Lucas would have eaten his heart out to have something as good a scene as that bar fight, you know.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Oh, so good.
We got a few comments here I'll catch up on. I might not have the word huddle, but it has so many great scenes of friends around the dinner table. fireplace talking things over whiskey.
Exactly.
And, so many crazy ideas, but so grand and human too. Yeah, and it's not quite whiskey. It's hooch. It's
That's right.
has his own.
His
Because
own
he says,
skill.
in case I break a leg and the doctor says I can't drink, I want to have some on hand. And Ghost says, you can still drink if you break your leg. Well,
Is the Shakespeare thing a hobby horse of Simak's? Because this is, I think, probably like the third book I've read in the last 6 months where Shakespeare not having authored his plays is a well, not a major plot point, but a plot point.
Yeah, I wondered that too, Gavin.
Isn't this the first time we've encountered Shakespeare in the ones we've read? Because I know there's a book coming up called Shakespeare's Planet.
Yeah, that's a little different, but yeah, he doesn't. The only time that he's come out to say something like that, I think it was just I don't know whether he believed it or not, but it's definitely, it works as a humorous, plot device, I guess.
Conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Diane Loftus, hi all, just jumping in to see what this book is all about. Yeah, it's a great book.
It's a lot of fun, Diane.
Crazy fun.
Jenny says, hi Diane, me too. This one sounds interesting. Sounds like Guardians of the Galaxy cast spinoff. Oh, okay.
A motley crew.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Guardians mixed Firefly.
Nice. I like that.
So Sean,
it's also a campus novel.
Yeah.
It's
a campus novel. It's a humorous novel of people getting into trouble, alley-oop and that, doing things that they shouldn't be doing, drunken brawls, a murder mystery, there's some philosophical, it's got everything in there.
The stakes just seem to be around funding. I mean, which is lovely. It's nice low stakes, so you're not having to sort of worry too much about the fate of the universe in the book. But it's I don't know what his experience is with academia, but I mean that's where the satire in this lies. That he is. We've got these people who've got a time machine, but no funding for it.
Yeah.
So they can go anywhere they like, but no one wants to give them the cash to do so. And the prize for this is just some sort of immense store of knowledge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Those conversations between the administrator and Maxwell.
Yeah. Well, that's
even like you're not even employed here anymore.
Yeah.
Because
he did.
Yeah.
So they gave away his position. And they're giving him another position way out in the middle of nowhere, where there's witches and warlocks and stuff. He would grab at it. But so we got the situation where Shakespeare's comes back. But he tells them about the planet that he was on, that the beings are dying, the race is dying, but they're from a universe before our own, and they've got a storehouse, a library of knowledge from that universe and everything in this universe as well. On which is interesting, metal plates that it's atomically, the information is atomically put on there, which is kind of interesting because they are talking about a way of doing that, I think now. So I don't know if that was even thought of then, but they're actually talking. I've read some stuff, or just I've seen it, where they're trying to figure out ways of having information at the atomic level. I don't know how they do it, but that's what was in there. So and he knows that he's going to be the broker to sell this. So he wants the university to buy this, and then he finds out what the cost is this monolith, this black monolith,
the artifact. Yeah,
the artifact.
Sound familiar?
It does.
And it was 1969, same year as 2000 came out. So I don't know.
And I've seen the cover of The Visitor, but I haven't read it. But there's a monolith in that one too.
That's a spaceship
on the cover, anyway.
Yeah, that's a spaceship.
Is it okay?
Yeah. If I remember right, yeah. But yeah, so they find out that's what it is, and this Churchill who took him out on the in his flying thing that crashed, And the thing is, he could have actually been, ready to kill him, take him somewhere. But we don't really get into that. But he's the agent for these wheelers who are a strange, like they're like a garbage can with wheels on, but you can see through their bellies and there's worms in them. Like, and they are very obnoxious. They're pretending to be sort of the kings of the galaxy, and they like everybody's afraid that if they piss them off, they'll start an intergalactic war. But they want to get, so they actually buy the monolith, and because they're going to get the knowledge. And it's like, this is dangerous, these people, because it turns out these were slaves of the people that were on the planet, who sent out other beings like the banshees, the goblins, and that to colonize worlds. None of them worked, and like Maxwell sits with a dying banshee, and the banshee sort of tipped off the wheelers because he doesn't like humans, because humans screwed up everything for him by evolving, originally. So, but he learns these kind of things. But he learns about that they were slaves because he goes to a party, and where this rich woman just has parties, but she likes this painter called Lambert, who has painted a picture with a monolith on, and then other strange aliens around. But it's like in the Jurassic period. So how did this guy get to the Jurassic period? We find out that he's a time traveler as well, from the early 21st century, who has a time machine in his brain that's functioning, and he's jumping all over the place. Like, it just gets wackier as it goes.
And he says, I haven't painted that picture yet.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
And I was wondering if that was a real painter. And I looked it up, and there is a painter with that name. But I have no idea if he just named the painter after that, or if there's a connection.
Oh, that's
Does
interesting.
Anybody know that?
No.
I don't know.
Look at the name. Was it Pearson? Alfred Pearson?
Lambert.
Or something like that?
I think it was Lambert.
Lambert, right. Alfred Lambert. Yep.
Yeah, Albert Lambert.
Albert Lambert. But I did look it up, and there's
But
no paintings of monoliths, though, that I saw. What I flipped through.
But it's funny when he's at the party, because Carol's there with Sylvester, and Sylvester starts chasing the wheeler, and he's going by the name Mr. Marmaduke at that point.
Yeah.
Good kitty.
But and then I'm not going to go into so much detail, but thing is they figure that there's something with this monolith, and he thinks, could it be more information? Why do these beings want something when they're dying?
Mm-hmm.
So he goes, and he's got these goggles that can actually, like, he was able to read the information on these plates from the library. So on the planet. So he goes and puts those on, and he sees a dragon inside. But because it obviously triggered something, and the dragon comes out and starts, like it's a museum, and it just destroys everything, like the scrolls from Library of Alexander, and then they let it out, and then you just see this like the head of the Time Incorporated, Harlow Sharp. He comes out, and you can just see his hair turning gray while he's talking to him, and he goes. And he's talking to Maxwell, and he goes, "I knew it would be you, Alley-oop, that you'd be here. And where's your partner in crime, Ghost? Because Ghost ran off, at that point. And then you see that they wanted to give the Wheelers didn't, by the looks of it, know really why they wanted the people on the planet wanted the monolith or the dragon. So they're trying to capture it, and there's a whole bunch of them trying to force it down over Goblin Reservation, because it went there knowing that there were people that from his time, or the dragon's time. Mm-hmm. So they finally get over there to help. Ghost tells them they need help, but that's meanwhile Sylvester kills one of the wheelers, and it's just a stink bug basically, and it just it almost kills them from the smell. But they go there, and it's and they need to ask the trolls to put an enchantment on the wheelers to stop them from flying, but they won't do it, and because they turned all the sweet summer ale sour, so O'Toole is just ready to kill them all, and then so Maxwell's trying to broker this, and finally says, "Okay, O'Toole, you're gonna make some kegs of beer for them. That's what they want." So they get the wheelers to stop, and it turns out that the people of the planet it was a pet. The dragon was a pet, and it was the last of its species, and they wanted to free it because it disappeared. Like they had it on this monolith. It looks like it was their ship. It was their shipping container for it, or maybe put it on. That's what I sort of get, and it went on the monolith. I mean, on the hill, and then all of a sudden, Time Incorporated steals it, and they don't know what happened to it. For millennia or millions of years, and then they find out what happened to it, and they want to free it before they die. So they do get the library, and at the end, the dragon's sitting on top of the castle and sticks its tongue out at Sylvester.
Mm-hmm.
It's just wacky, but it's just absolutely fabulous.
Wacky, good fun.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed the science fiction elements a lot. This idea that hopefully I was getting right, but the crystal planet thing that he went to, there was a description of how that survived the death of a universe,
Yeah.
So the universe would expand and then collapse, expand, collapse, expand, collapse, and they figured out a way to bridge the gap and have something survive that.
Yeah, they domed it over.
Great idea, yeah.
Yeah, and they have all the knowledge from that previous universe stored as well.
Yeah, so
Right.
it's like
Really
50
cool idea.
billion years of knowledge, and yeah.
And also too, he's talking because it's pretty clear, other than the Wheelers, that there is a brotherhood of aliens, of beings. And he talks. There's one scene that Maxwell's talking about, and somebody says something about intolerance, and he said, it just doesn't work. Like you can't have intolerance when if you got to do anything. It just it just everything falls apart with intolerance. So you get this philosophy of Simak as well, but it's not as philosophical. Like they don't sit around and talk too much about philosophy like some of his other books, but it's there. It's there under sort of layers a little bit, and especially with the knowledge that knowledge is good, and it's academia is like the planet is a university, Earth is a university, and like the guy doesn't seem to be concerned about getting this knowledge. And then, what the university supposed to be? And as Gavin, you're saying, it's a poke at them because it's like, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, yeah, and somehow Maxwell has this decision to make. Who's going to get the knowledge? Does he want? I guess it's basically, does he want to be the representative and sell this or not? But he's worried about who he sells it to, and to have that in one person, making that decision, that big a decision, harkens back to All Flesh is Grass, when that kind of a similar thing was going on. But wondering, well, what are they going to do with it? Trying to make sure that whoever gets it will do something good with it.
Yeah, well, that's why he asked Marmaduke, the Wheeler, what do you want to do? What do you want with it? What are you going to do with the knowledge? And he won't tell him. So it's like, well, he doesn't want to continue, with this at all. And it's very much like you say, it's like All Flesh is Grass. There's so many things that he pulls in. Like he reuses, he tweaks them, he goes in a slightly different direction at times. And I just love him for that. Jenny says, "Why isn't this a film?" Or exactly, like you could see this as a TV series of them, doing this stuff. It just, why isn't it a film?
I want it to be a cartoon. I think it'd make a fantastic cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it would be, because you could do the music, with alley oop and Ghost.
Well, I agree. I've wondered, animation being as sophisticated as it is now, I wonder why nobody's making like a classic piece of science fiction, because your special effects budget is just the animation, right? So I don't know. I remember when Serenity came out, they said that was like peak. That was as many people as they could count on, like in the science fiction world. Yeah, Studio Ghibli doing it would be incredible. This book, right? But so I'm wondering if they're just worried about who would come watch it. But like if you did Ringworld or something,
yeah,
like as an animated movie, that would be pretty cool, And heck, I can think of 5 or 6 Simak novels that'd be amazing.
Yeah, well, it's the thing. It's like people ask me about City, like should they make City into a film, and I'm going, you could now, with obviously you could make it, with the special effects but in some ways there's some that it would almost ruin it, because it works on paper, but I don't think it would work maybe in film, like having a talking dog. Even if you make it look correctly, it might just still be a little naff.
I think with City it worked much better as sort of a mini series, sort of 7 or 8 episodes of something, because it is so. I mean, it is very episodic in its structure, and then you do have that framing narrative of the robot and the dog talking and learning about all the history to sort of guide you through it, and you could do it in one series, so it doesn't matter if it ever got cancelled.
Yeah. But this one, I think it would just make a wonderful film, like either animated, or both animated and human, because AI, they could do something really wonderful now, with Ghost, with the Goblin and stuff. They don't even have to be there. The Banshee, everything, the dragon.
Yeah, it would be terrific. You're right.
And then just the series, like it would just I could just picture these guys doing stuff, basically you could just start them in the Pig and Whistle all the time, and they start off on going somewhere to solve a crime, like have them be Scooby-Doo,
I think
it's sort of like Cheers, everybody they'll meet at the Pig and Whistle, they'll meet in the bar and go from there. I did have a question that maybe, and I was wondering if I missed something, but through the whole novel, Ghost doesn't know who he's the ghost of, right? He's not sure who he is. Was that ever explained, why he doesn't know that he's the ghost of Shakespeare?
No, it just when they're talking, all of a sudden he realizes that he's the ghost of that, and they both freak out, and like Shakespeare just sort of leaps out and just disappears, and then they wind up dancing at
the end, right? I just wondered if I missed something about why does he not know who he's the ghost of? What happened to him that he doesn't know? So.
Gavin, you were going to say?
Oh well, no, I want to talk about that now. It just I think it's almost like the death, the passing was a trauma. Because it is when Shakespeare's talking about Stratford-on-Avon that it suddenly
that it comes back,
clicks like an amnesiac, just recalling everything at once.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was a particularly nasty death, but
yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's just because when I first read it, I don't think I was expecting that. I wasn't expecting it,
No.
Because he kept that pretty good,
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it
I had a question too. Like in the beginning, even our main character is trying to figure out if he's the original or if he's a copy or if something else happened.
Yeah.
And I recently read a bunch of Philip K. Dick, and he loves that topic. And I thought we were going to get an answer. I didn't really catch anything if that was ever resolved, but I might have missed it.
No, well, I think what it was, because the way it's like the beam goes out and somebody copied the information, and the beam went to the whatever system that he was going to investigate the
dragon.
Yeah. And then they copied it and then diverted the copy. So and you shouldn't be able to do that. But these guys got the knowledge of two universes, so
so he probably was the copy then the whole time.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But is it a copy when it's identical? Like because you're taking the information. It's just and then just splitting it.
They're both the copies.
Yeah, they both copy. Yeah, they are because it's the original. See, he didn't get into the details, but in Waystation, there's a residue that's left of the body, and it gets flushed. And they didn't talk about that here, but we're talking hundreds of years in the future, so better technology.
They never mention this in Star Trek either. They are just like replicating the matter somewhere else, duplicating something that they have to get rid of the biomass of wherever you've been sending it from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we can make Scotty the greatest mass murderer in Star Trek.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just the nature of this transportation, it copies you, so the copy just split. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's cool. There's a really good story called "Think Like a Dinosaur" by James Patrick Kelly. Anybody read that one? But it has to do with this. It's like you do this transfer, but there's the person is actually left behind, but you need to destroy the person. So there's somebody whose job that is.
Rogue Moon by Algis Budrys. That's the same concept there. They transport people to the moon with a copy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Simak has another story that's kind of similar to this as well. There's a couple names: Goodnight, Mr. James, and Night of the Pudley, or Pudley, or something like that. Mm. And it's kind of that. And they actually made a what's the other series? Not Twilight Zone, but there was Outer Limits.
Oh,
they made an Outer Limits episode of it. And it was like I've read in some interviews that Simak watched the episode, and then he saw his name come up in the credits, and he goes, "Well, they stole my story." Like he didn't even recognize his story until he saw his name. Apparently,
yeah.
It's interesting the look of how knowledge is viewed as a weapon, a tool to build, or even as an inconvenience that people don't want, as it changes their beliefs, like with Shakespeare. Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
Yeah,
it's
nice.
like, the Harlow Sharp. It's like it almost as if he doesn't want to be bothered with that.
Yes. Yeah.
He just wants the money. He just wants money. That's all.
The literature department's pretty angry with them because of this. It says, well, you really should, if this is true, you see it as the opportunity to find, right, okay, we now look at Francis Bacon. Is it Francis Bacon? Who's the artist? Anyway, Bacon. Is presumed, or was it? No, it's not Bacon in this one. It's the Earl of Oxford or someone. I can't remember who they think wrote it.
I forget now, yeah.
I don't even remember.
Yeah, so I mean, the thing is like any one of the other people that could have written the Shakespeare, they've got so much more biographical material about them than they do about Shakespeare that it opens up so many avenues of sort of educational exploration, and they really don't want to do that.
Yeah, well, and also too starts a big bar fight. It's like it comes down to that.
Yeah, you're one step away from it being sort of a pie fight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I
did,
think
did Simak have any connection to a university? To Gavin's question before, I mean, was he an academic? I don't know what
No,
his.
he went to college to be a teacher first of all, and he taught for a little bit, and then he did journalism.
Okay.
And then from the 30s on to his retirement in the late 70s, he was a journalist. From 39, basically, or around then, to 78, he worked at the Minneapolis Star / Tribune.
Okay.
He was section editor for science. He wrote a lot of articles, and then he dropped down, I think, sometime just to write articles so he could write more fiction. And then he retired, I think, 78-ish, around then.
There's that interview, we've mentioned it before, that James Gunn did with him, and it's on YouTube. And he talks, I think it's this one where he talks about not having like a major scientific background, but he doesn't let that get in his way. He doesn't describe the details of how space travel works or any of these things. He just takes it for granted and lets the story kind of shine through, I think.
But he edited, or he was the section head for scientific articles where scientists actually wrote in the newspaper, and it was actually used in schools for teaching, like not universities or anything like that. And then he edited 2 science books with articles from like Asimov, Willy Ley. One's called March of Science, and Atoms to Infinity, I think, is the other one. But then he also wrote 2 astronomy books, and then one on early man, and one on, like, it's called Trilobite, Dinosaur and Man, or something like that. So another paleontology one. So
have his journalistic pieces been collected anywhere? His journalism?
No. And I need to, because you can go behind, you can pay for getting into the Minneapolis Tribune, and I'm going to at some point go in and just print everything off,
Clean them out.
That would be fascinating. I to see what he wrote about
Yeah.
I can't believe nobody's collected that.
Yeah, well, I think there's one essay in Atoms to Infinity. I think that's his. The March of Science one, he just edited with a paragraph or 2 introduction. So there's one of the articles maybe, and that's it basically.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I hope you do something good with that knowledge, Sean.
Yeah.
Going back to Daniel's comment there, that's like a central theme of Simak in almost everything we've read, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's looking at knowledge in these aspects that Daniel's talking about.
Yeah.
The dangerousness of it, but the good of it, this is what he's talking about a lot of the time.
Yeah, you usually don't get like a typical villain. It's what people are going to do with this, or the circumstance they're in. But
yeah,
have your group read Why Call Them Back from Heaven yet?
Not yet. I'm not sure if that's this year, because you see that the way this started was last March, and I was going to read just a few stories every other month, or novels every other month, and I just picked a bunch. And then I put in novels in the in-between months, but they weren't in chronological order. Now, starting in February, starting today, we're going back and doing it chronological when he wrote them, minus the ones we did last year.
Right.
But January was a bit of a holdover because a lot of people wanted, because I reread it in August, but that wasn't part of this thing. So I thought I'd do it in January and then start February.
So we've got it on our schedule in September.
Okay. Yeah. Have you read that one, Gavin?
I've read that one. I was just thinking there you've got, I don't want to give spoilers away, but you have someone who comes into knowledge and that puts a target on them. So there is very much sort of capitalistic. Here it's just almost like bureaucracy rather than, any sort of idea of greed, except for that one person. But then he doesn't want greed for himself. He just wants to keep his business, the university, afloat.
Yeah, and even
Very
Time
good.
and Again has a little bit of that because the guy writes a book and it's a bit more religious tract, but he's hunted down through time. And that's going to be April. I think it's April. Time and Again.
Yeah, let me look here.
Yeah, after Empire.
It
I
is
think.
April. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, you see, some people put Empire after because it was technically published after Time and Again, because Time and Again showed up in Galaxy in 1950, or October, November, and December 1950. And I think it was 51 that Empire was published in the Galaxy novels, but he actually wrote it earlier, so I'm putting it as the second one, and that's not wholly his. Well, he wrote it, but he was given a novel by John W. Campbell that John W. Campbell wrote when he was a teenager, apparently, and said rewrite it. So and he thought it was Simak didn't think it was very good. He rewrote it completely, but using the same story, and he still didn't think it was very good. But he gave it back to Campbell, and Campbell didn't want it, and then he just threw it in the drawer. And then H.L. Gold was asking him for something for the Galaxy novels, and he just gave him that, and that's how it got published. It's interesting, but it's not Simakian, I guess, or it's not wholly him, Yeah. But it's interesting. It's very 1930s space opera type thing, but it's okay. So
Well,
yeah, and then next month is Cosmic Engineers. This is the second paperback library edition. I'll be doing a video on all the editions of this shortly. But yeah, that's his first novel. This was published by Gnome Press in 1950, but it was serialized in Astounding in 1939, and it was changed a bit for this. So if I really have the gumption up, I'll read the serialized version and reread this one and see what the difference is for them.
Do you have the Galaxy copies or the Astounding?
Yeah, Astounding. I do have them. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nifty.
How many issues did that span?
3.
3. Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't the first thing that he wrote back for Campbell. He wrote a couple other things because he stopped writing about 34, 35 because he just didn't like what was going on. Then when he heard Campbell was hired for Astounding, he decided that he could write for Campbell, and so he started sending stuff. And Campbell actually made him a better writer if you read the 30 stuff and even this. Except Lester Del Rey said about this, he says it should have stayed in the vaults, and he thought it was bad. But even Judith Merrill didn't think much of Goblin Reservation. She found it fun to read, that it kept her going, but she thought it wasn't very good. It wasn't it wasn't very well written. And I think it's very well written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
So
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
Hey Pat, was this your first read from Simak?
No, my second. So I did read City.
Nice.
Yeah. And I guess I've read a few short stories that weren't in City, but this is really, I guess, other than that, this would be my first novel. Yeah.
Yeah, Daniel said he's hoped to join in, I guess, with Cosmic Engineers, but he's doing
So Arabian Nights, have you started that yet, I can't remember what your schedule is. On
Yeah,
that one.
it's starting sort of today. I just read the introduction, and I'm gonna read and it's funny. I was thinking maybe I'll read it before bed, like every night, because there's 22 nights in the first section for the month, and then it says that the stories were told at nighttime. So I go, yeah, that's when I'll do it.
Perfect. That's
Um,
great.
yeah. So, but the thing is, I just do want to caution everybody that everything that we've read up. This is different. This is his first novel. This is very 30s science fiction. It's a little better than some of the stuff, but it's still pulp science fiction. And even his when he rewrote bits of it and stuff, it's not. You can't compare it to Goblin Reservation or a way station or city. Yeah, and then but then that bad thing is then we go to Empire. So it's going to take a little while to get back.
Okay.
So
To
a
get
couple months.
back to Simak stuff.
Yeah,
So
it's
after
Simak.
Time and Again is the one after Empire. So
yeah, and that was done in 1950. So, but yeah, this you'll still see Simak in here. There's still things in here, but he's learning his craft, and it's very much part and parcel of the 1930s. His stories in the 30s. And that's the thing, because I hope we can. I think this goes to June next year's the same time as 1001 Nights for the novels, and then after that, if everybody's game, we can continue with short stories chronologically.
You bet.
There's only 150 of them.
Well, the only one that's got to start with Mr. Meek, surely.
Oh yeah. Well, no. Well, that's late.
That's probably a bit later,
40,
isn't it?
40. Yeah, that's 40s.
Hellhounds of the Cosmos. That's must be early.
Yeah, that's very different. That's cosmic horror. That is, like somebody said that Werewolf Principle was horrific and bloody. Oh, read Hellhounds of the Cosmos.
Hellhounds of the Cosmos is the first Simak I ever read.
Wow.
So every time I read some, actually, it's been sort of quite different.
Yeah, well, the 30s ones, like his very first published one is The World of the Red Sun. It's a time machine novel, very much like H.G. Wells. The second one that was published was probably written before that, but it was published after. His very first story, Cubes of Ganymede, was accepted by T. O'Connor Sloan after for Amazing Stories in like 28 or 29 after Hugo Gernsback was ousted. But then he held on for it for a long time, and then sends it back and says, no, we can't do it. It's out of date now. And Simak doesn't have a clue what's happened to that, or didn't know, and they've never found it yet. He said it was bad. So
Wow. Very cool.
It's and then like Pat, you may not be aware, he wrote westerns, and he wrote some air war stories as well.
Wow. I think if I know that, it's just because you may have told me that at some point, but I haven't encountered any of them yet. So.
Yeah, he was going through a tough time, I think, money wise. So he bought a bunch of westerns and started writing, and just read, and he saw the formula, so he started writing them. But he put people in, like doctors, journalists, in his stories. And they are Simak. There are Simak things in them, because he does use huddling as well at times. And then in one time he uses the word robot, which is a little odd.
Interesting. So those are all short stories, right? The
Yeah,
westerns.
yeah. There's 14 of them.
So are those all included in those open road media or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's 14 of them, and then there's 5 air war stories that he wrote. I think 4 or 5
included in those. Yeah, it's odd. You know, I was looking through those the other day, and they didn't do it in chronological order or anything that I can tell. They're just random in each volume.
Well, yeah, he says, I think, in the very first introduction for the first one, he didn't want to put them in chronological order because he thought there'd be, a lot of stories that are lesser stories. So he wanted to put lesser stories with good stories to keep people, interested.
Yeah.
But, I would have preferred it to be chronological myself.
Sure.
So, like when I get around to doing it, I'm just going to have to, use my Muriel Becker's, bibliography, or it's actually pretty good, the bibliography for the short stories on
ISFTB.
No, well, yeah, that's pretty good too, or that's pretty good, yeah, and Wikipedia has a pretty good list of it as well. Yeah. Whoever did that did well.
What about the guy that has that bibliography page? Did he cover short stories?
The international one?
Question.
It's that website where it's just all Simak.
I've got the website here now. And
yeah,
it's the international.
Yeah, he does have stories. Yep.
Sure okay.
Does. Yep. Number 1 is World of the Red Sun.
Yeah.
And then that was in 1931, and Hellhounds of the Cosmos was 1932. So yeah, right there at the beginning.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So he does that, and he shows all the covers, and that's where I got the cover for the Polish cover for Goblin Reservation, and I've got to get that one. I don't know what they were doing with that, but it's just so bizarre.
That is funny. Yep.
But that is pretty good because he keeps updating, and I first saw that before I came to England, so we're talking over 20 years. He's been doing it.
It looks like a website from 20 years ago, but it's great.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, because he's got little information. I'll actually, because I've never put that up, I don't think. I'll try to remember to add the link down below for anybody. And also, too, I did say I was going to do the interview with James Gunn, and I never did that. I'll try to put that down below as well. I'll try to do it now after we finish the live. Diane's asking, what's my favorite? So my favorite city is definitely City, and a close second, I think, with Way Station is Goblin Reservation. So Pat, you've only read 2, but others, Ira, you've read quite a few, and Scott.
So I've read about half his novels now, and I would say my favorite is All Flesh is Grass. Project Pope being
not Project Pope. Yeah,
Project Pope is right up there too. And then I do love City and Way Station, but if I had to pick one, All Flesh is Grass is my current favorite.
Yeah, because I generally read, or I have for the last probably 35, 40 years, I've pretty well read City once a year, at least once a year. And then in between that, I read the second story, Huddling Place, another time during the year. And then now I'm definitely going to be adding this on a yearly reading schedule.
Very nice. Because it puts you in a good mood. Yeah.
Like Aaron is talking about, the Enchanted Pilgrimage, the British cover, it's got a spaceship on it. And it's just sometimes I just don't know what they're on, because they just clearly, like, even that, like, why is Sylvester in a box, coming out of a box? Like, if the dragon was doing that, because that doesn't look like, no, that's a saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah.
If it was a dragon, then you could say, okay, yeah, because it's coming out of
yeah.
And I'm not sure who that's supposed to be.
Does it? It might not even have anything to do with it at all. I've seen an edition of the Goblin Reservation that has this cover.
Yeah,
I've seen that too.
Yeah, and this is James Tiptree. I don't know who had it first, but
Yeah, they
Often
reuse
things
stuff.
get reused.
Yeah, it's like there's a A.E. Van Vogt cover that has the robot from City, the edition where the robot's sitting at a desk, and they reuse that. They reuse stuff all the time, but it's clearly somebody who's not read the book.
Yeah.
Well, it's all just science fiction. Just just stick it on there. It's fine.
Make it up.
Put a UFO on the front. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can never quite make sense of a Richard Powers cover.
I don't understand this cover at all. I was just going to ask that. What is this supposed to be? That's what I have too.
Yeah, I love Richard Powers though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I love his stuff.
And then this would make you think it's like a fantasy novel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it kind of is.
It sort of is a little bit,
Yeah.
right?
The British Corgi. Yeah, that was.
So this
that
was not
worked.
the original one, right? But that was clearly made for the book.
Yeah, and the Corgi one's good too. The Corgi British one is pretty good. It's got them sort of like a group photo with a few heads looking around the corner. And that one's pretty good. I do need to get that one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's just the I guess for collecting is like I want to get all the American editions and all the British editions. That's my aim. And then I'd love to get foreign edition, especially
all of the Polish editions, obviously.
Well, yeah, there's some German ones that are really nice too.
Oh.
But for City, I would love to have, because it's my favorite one, just have every cover that's been done.
How many do you have, Sean? How many of it do you have of City?
I don't have that many. That's the thing.
Really?
I only have. I don't think I have any. No, I don't have an American version anymore of City. And there's like 8 of them. There's 8 of them. Ira has the first one, and that's the pricey one, the first paperback. And then he's got, I think, one other one.
Yeah, this is kind of my prized possession.
Ooh, look at that.
Oh, look at that. Wow.
And it 25 cents, Perma books.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's Richard Powers, right?
I think it's Powers, yeah.
Yep.
So that's a first edition paperback?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's the first one. And then the next one was the robot one. Well, there's several with robots, but I think there's been eight American ones. 8 American editions paperback. And
nice.
Not so many British ones, but there's quite a few. And the strange thing was that there's a few, like the City hardcover, they never used that even for the book club edition. They never used the artwork for that for some reason. And there's a few others that they didn't use either. There's some they didn't even make a book club edition of. And I don't know why. Aaron is saying you can imagine the same cover artist being told it's a science fiction book, and them going right then a flying saucer and a scantily clad green alien woman. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, no, I love Richard Powers, but like I think all the doll ones are Frank Kelly Freas.
Yeah, they are. They're all by the same artist. Yep, Frank Kelly Freas.
And then there's what I always forget his name. Daryl K. Sweet's done a few, and the other guy,
Michael Whalen.
Michael Whalen, yeah, has done a few. He's done the fantasy ones, but I even though Special Deliverance may not be one of his best novels, I love the cover.
Yeah,
I love the cover.
Yeah, me too.
Because I was looking at the website. Sorry,
the guy and the dog.
No, this one's like
there's a robot pouring tea.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I went. He's got a site you can buy original artwork of Michael Whalen, and prints.
this one.
And I'm just glad that there isn't any original artwork of Simak because I'd want it.
It's got that cube, and
I could never afford it.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a nice cover, and that's Wayland, isn't it?
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah. He did, I think, in Fellowship of the Talisman. No, yeah, he did Fellowship of the Talisman, and I can't remember. I think he did one others, maybe two others.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah, cool.
and then the British ones, they just they did everything. There's a German one of City that has the robot on as well, which looks kind of neat. They just did little different bits with it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess that's it. Does anybody else have anything to say or anything more about the book or anything else?
Thanks, all. That was really fun again.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
It's great
That's
to see
fun.
everybody, and nice to meet you, Gavin.
And to you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I hope. Are you back next month, Gavin?
I'll be
or next month?
back from Empire, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have Cosmic Engineers, but I do have Empire downloaded somewhere.
Oh, you if you'll read. I can. Oh no, we'll talk. Stay on after. But you're joining Pat or
I would like to.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you for
Thank
showing
you,
up,
Diane. Thanks, everybody.
Yep.
So,
Thank
Thanks.
you, everybody.
Kitty cat.
bye for now, everybody. We'll be back later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.